This is SoulCharge, the podcast for women leaders to take the highest level of ownership of their power to create results now. I'm your host, Stacy B. Let's dive in. Welcome back to another episode of SoulCharge. I'm your host, Stacy B. And today's episode is a conversation that I am really looking forward to shining a light on because it's something that was showing up for me. And then I spoke to clients about it. And so I know that it is showing up for you, dear listener, the woman leader who has it all and is incredible at achieving, incredible at getting things done. This episode is for you. This episode is about shining a light on some things that are so deep in our subconscious that it is time to pull out into the light and take our power back in a huge way. So let's dive in. The topic of today's episode is around making it happen and the significance that we get as women leaders in the pursuit of making things happen and achieving in a really big way. And the first thing is that we as women leaders achieve and have a lot of pride around achieving, and that's not the problem. The problem lies in when we are achieving and making things happen, and in the process of that are self-compromising. In other words, we are not thinking about what we get out of the situation or what benefits us and prioritize making it happen above all else. And so this really came to light in my own life because I have always prided myself as someone that you call when your back's up against a wall. I am the person that I will make anything happen. I will close that deal. I will get that proposal out. I will save the day, right? There was a lot of significance in my life around being the hero or the heroine that everyone called and knew that if they called upon Stacy, game over, it is done. And that I got a lot of rewards for that, right? I got a lot of significance for that in my life. And in that significance, I actually associated making things happen in the reward system as success. And so for a long time, making things happen was prioritized over what the right move was, what the strategic move was, what the best and the highest and best move was at the time. Because if an opportunity came up to make it happen, that would override the strategic decision. And so what I'm seeing is that this is true, not just for me, but for a lot of women leaders. And that's why I wanted to bring it to the podcast, because when I experience something like this and it's so significant for me, I know that on some level it's going on for you. And so when we are making it happen, what happens is that completely overrides everything else. And I want to give a little color to a way that you might be describing this. So you may be saying, I am getting a lot of stuff done, or I just have to get this done. And then I think the key phrase here to look at is there a phrase in your life where you are saying, I just have to get this done, and then I have to make this happen, and then it will be better, it will be done, then I can do what I really want to do. Another way that this can show up is I have to get this done for this client and then, or I have to launch this thing and then. If you can just look, any sentences that also have and then is a good indicator that this is going on. And the this, or the root of what I'm talking about, is this underlying pattern that we have as women leaders in getting significance in making it happen. And so when we look at making it happen, what happens is a lot of times with the pursuit of making it happen, we compromise ourselves and actually blow to smithereens all of our personal boundaries and what matters to us. And in the pursuit of that explosion happening, what happens is we continue to cross our own boundaries enough that
then we get into other territory that can be really dangerous, which goes into self-betrayal, self-doubt, and having a relationship with ourselves where even if we set a new goal or a new vision, we actually don't fulfill it because it's like, what's the point? We've let ourselves down so many times. And so that's really the connection that I wanted to speak to, is this idea of, if you are out there making something happen, if you are out there, with that priority of saving the day and getting a lot of significance from being the hero in your own life and to your clients or to your team or to other people in your life, there is another way. And the other way is more supportive of you, and it's actually more supportive for the other. And that's what I want to talk about today. The light, though, that I want to shine is that when we do this enough, it actually starts to be perceived between ourselves and ourselves as a strength. And it becomes essentially an association that we see as a strength, and so we lead with it. And there is another way. Okay? The the making things happen, most of the time, what I've discovered is that when I am making something happen or pushing with such force, I can say that I am often not in the equation. In other words, I'm pushing to make something happen, and in the process of that, I'm forgoing my boundaries or blowing them up. I'm forgetting what they are, or I am not a part of making it happen. And so I want to dive into this a little bit more so that you get the context and the color of what I'm talking about. Is, if I have an opportunity, right? And let's just use a client opportunity. And I don't really want to do the opportunity. In other words, there's another opportunity that I'd rather pursue, but it's an opportunity right on the table. So why not make it happen? Can any of you relate, right? It's like, if there is an opportunity, close the deal, make it happen. Like, it's right there in front of you. And I think that the light I want to shine here is that in the pursuit of making that happen, I am foregoing or crossing my own boundaries and standards of what is most important to me, or the next step that I really want to take that would maybe open up to exponential opportunity. I'm looking at this micro opportunity and making a decision based on making it happen. Whenever I am making something happen, you can rest assured that there is a thread of people pleasing, wanting to be liked, and wanting to be accepted that unconsciously or subconsciously, I am trying to get from this situation. And it is the same for you. If you are in that, in the phrase of, I'm going to make this happen, or I'm going to get these things done, most of the things that you are pushing so hard for are for other people. And I want to be clear, we have to do things for other people, but we don't have to do them at our own expense. And that is the message of today's podcast, is that there is another way. When you can be conscious of what your standards are, what your tolerations are, what your boundaries are, and then you use that as the way in which you vet the opportunities that you decide to engage in, that allows for a really beautiful unfolding to happen. But before I get into that, let's talk a little bit more about how making something happen is actually a disservice to the people you're doing that for. So I'm going to use an example of what I mean in this. I'm going to take it into a conversation I was having last week with a woman. And in that conversation, we were talking about this, right? We were talking about the idea of making things happen, right? And how in the pursuit of making something happen, we can lose ourselves and cross our own boundaries. But what happens is when we're making something happen and losing ourselves in the process, what we're actually doing is creating a container for the other person that's involved that's really disempowering. And so it's actually the highest and best good for you to maintain those boundaries and to model what that looks like for the other person, the client, or whatever it is that you're working on. In the conversation that we were having last week with the woman that I just mentioned, in the discussion of we're going to make this happen, right? What that does is it not only creates a disempowering container for the people that are involved, but it actually holds the other people back that are waiting to support you, provide for you, be a team member to you. It's actually holding them back as well because you're getting out of your lane. And so what happens is you get out of your lane, right? And then they are unclear of expectations and boundaries because you're blowing up your expectations and boundaries. It's really beautiful to see that your standards and your expectations and boundaries and holding true to those actually create the best possible environment for the people waiting to support you. It creates the best possible environment for your family and your friends. And it also helps you on the path of evolution to do and go through the natural growth process of growing out of friends and growing out of social situations and growing out of offers and clients and what your business is today. Those boundaries and expectations are what protect you and your magic. And when you forego those in the pursuit of making something happen, it's actually disastrous for you and the people involved. And so I think it's important as women that you see that it's not just you that loses when you don't uphold your boundaries and standards and you do things for other people, dismissing yourself in the process. The thing that creates a beautiful relationship with your teammates, with your colleagues, with your family, friends, and clients is when you are coming to the table whole and complete and honoring your truth, and they get to do the same. The world where we have to sacrifice because of something or someone else, that world needs to die. And it's my hope that this podcast starts to help that world die, because the truth is that that's not productive and it's not what we're supposed to be doing. The world of I get to have a difference of opinion and to speak my mind and to use my voice as a woman leader, because that then models and empowers you to do the same, is the world that we are waking up to. And there is an incredible amount of empowerment let me say that. There is an incredible amount of empowerment that's up for you to claim when you start to check yourself and ask yourself this question of, where am I coming from? Am I coming from wanting to be liked? Am I saying this because I'm wanting approval? Am I demonstrating this vision because I want them to like it and accept it and get buy-in to move it forward? That is not buy-in. Like, doing things to be liked is actually the opposite, because it can't ever be successful long term. And I think that's really this beautiful opportunity we all have, is instead of making things happen, instead of, trying to be liked and approved of and, seeking validation from others, the opportunity is really to give that to ourselves. The opportunity is to really go, like, what is it that I am not giving to myself? What support am I not putting in place for myself that is calling me to try and get that from the outside? Because that's what's happening, is when we are trying to be liked or seeking approval or doing any of those people pleasing activities, what we're really saying is we are saying that we cannot source our own power. We are not able to self-possess ourselves. We are not able to validate ourselves, love ourselves, adore ourselves, like ourselves. And that is what is driving us to seek this from the outside world. And a way that masks itself in a huge way that is often rewarded and seen as very powerful is that If I make this happen for you, you are going to choose me to be your representative. You're going to sign up for my programs. Finish the sentence. And so, if instead of making it happen, you ask yourself, what is it that I want? What is my vision? What is my mission? What am I really trying to accomplish here? And does this opportunity align with that? You can get out of that people pleasing, making things happen loop, and instead come from a strategic place, come from a thoughtful place, come from an intentional place, and get behind what it is that you're doing. Because this conversation really opens up a whole can of worms. And I'm going to do another episode on this specifically, but I want to touch on it in this episode. And that is that when we stop making things happen, right, and compromising ourselves in the process, what that does is it allows us to regain our energy. It allows us to claim our passion again. It allows us to align ourselves to what it is we're even trying to do. Because a lot of you out there listening are burnt out. You have achieved a lot. You are super successful and you feel unfulfilled. You feel like you've lost your mojo. And I'm here to tell you, you haven't. You have not lost your mojo. You have not lost that incredible ignition, that spark in you. You are still there. It's just that you are buried in people pleasing activities like making it happen or getting shit done or getting this done or checking off this list of endless things you have to do. And you have gone into the lanes of your fellow colleagues and employees. You are taking on other people's jobs in your organization because you are afraid to take the stance. You're afraid of what happens if you don't make it happen. And what that's causing is it's causing burnout and it's causing exhaustion and it's frankly causing you to feel like you don't want to do your passion anymore, or you don't want to do the thing that you've loved for so long. And I am here to tell you that it isn't that. It is about the way in which you've been moving through the world is the exhausting part, because you have not been including yourself in the conversation. You have not been including yourself in the equation. And if you choose to stop making things happen, if you choose to instead be strategic and come home to yourself and stop coming from the place of, if I do this, then, and that is the key sentence from today's episode. When you stop doing this and you put yourself in the equation again, your spark is going to come back. You are going to come back. Your follow through is going to come back. The end of procrastination is going to come back. The end of postponing is going to come back. Because you are a part of the equation again, and that's the part you've been missing. So the takeaway from today's episode is I want you to reflect, is there anywhere in your life where you are saying, and then? I'm just going to push through this, and then I'm just going to deliver this outcome, and then I am just going to say yes when I mean no, and then I am just going to sacrifice myself this last time, and then. Evaluate, where are you saying and then? And start to undo those situations. Start to bring yourself back to, what is it that I really want? And is this situation fulfilling this? Because, my friends, I promise you, if you start to move through the world in this way and you start to be whole in your commitments and own your no's and say yes when you mean yes, and you put yourself in the equation, everyone benefits. Right now, they can only benefit a quarter of the way because you're sacrificing yourself in the process. And so may this podcast help you shine a light on where in your life you're saying and then, and start to undo those so that you can shift your and thens to, this is how it's going to go. Shift your and then to I am her today. Shift your I'm just going to do this thing I really don't want to do this last time, and then I'm going to do something different to I'm going to say no because I mean no. Shift your and thens to your intentional decision. And my friends, I promise you, your life is going to take another form of its own that will be fulfilling and happiness and full of happiness. And you will feel alignment because, my friends, that is what you are seeking. If you are tired right now, if you feel fed up, you feel that you just don't have that pizzazz in you used to, it is because of this. So take a look at this and come back to yourself and see what unfolds.
Are you loving SoulCharge? If so, hit the subscribe button, leave a review, and share an episode. We want to bring powerful content to women leaders each week so that women can be unleashed to create the results that they want now. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.